Welcome to the Insights on Internships from Professor Jones podcast, or IOI for short. If you're a student studying hospitality and tourism management, and you have an internship or work experience requirement, this podcast is for you. That also includes those of you in event management, or MICE emphasis as it's called in certain parts of the world. It's my objective to pass along the knowledge I've gained in nearly 50 years in the hospitality field. As an industry professional, I hired and managed interns. As a faculty member, I supervised students in their internships and oversaw internship courses. As an academic administrator, I developed curriculum that incorporated internships and work experience. So I've experienced every aspect of the process. Each episode will typically be less than 15 minutes long. The topics will cover the entire range from determining the type of internship you want, through the actual internship experience, and finally the reflection afterwards on what you've learned and how to connect it to your future career ambitions. The topic of this IOI episode is all the more human. The global pandemic has created a need for Flux. Things have changed and you need to be part of the solution. Fortunately for us, April Rennie, a business acquaintance of mine whom I've followed on LinkedIn for years, recently published a great book on the topic of Flux. The title is Flux, 8 Superpowers for Thriving in Constant Change. Her book will be the framework of this episode. The agenda will be to address the Flux mindset superpowers, the 8 of them, and then focus on 3 of those superpowers. It'll be my interpretation of each, how it applies to you in your hospitality industry internship, why it's important to you, and then we'll finish with the discussion guide that she provides for you to consider in my interpretation. Now, the Flux mindset 8 superpowers are: run slower, see what's invisible, get lost, start with trust, know you're enough, create your portfolio career, be all the more human, and let go of the future. As I said, we'll address 3 of those superpowers. While all the superpowers might be relevant, I'm going to focus on the 3 I think are the most important to an internship scenario, which are creating your own portfolio career, see what's invisible, and be all the more human. The first was addressed in the internship reflections episode. The second, in another episode on this topic of the Flux mindset. And this episode will focus on be all the more human. So, be all the more human. In a world of robots, we need to be more human. We need to use our humanity as well to help others. So we have to be aware of the relationship between humans and technology. That's my takeaway here. You have to have done it to know how to automate it, for example. So who better to automate a housekeeping role in a hotel than a housekeeper, for example? We always have to be balancing the yin and the yang, or have a harmony here, where the yang might be the domination or control aspect of things, and the yin is about collaboration. So we need to create technology solutions through collaboration, even though the technology may be automating a routine part of the operation, if you will, which might be the control or the system. Keep in mind that high tech doesn't mean lack of high touch. It's a balance between the two. So just because we automate something doesn't mean that we can't be more personal. Data can actually make us more responsive to guests' personal needs when we deal with them on a face-to-face basis, for example. April talks about digital intelligence, or DQ. She says We need to be more than IQ, your intelligence, if you will, or EQ, your emotional intelligence. Technology also has to be a means to an end. It's not just a solution in itself. So we need to be more aware of that. Now, the results of balance, being all the more human, benefits is to serve other humans. First, building relationships. The ability to build strong relationships with guests, colleagues, and other stakeholders. Putting data to good use. Second, empathy. The ability to understand and relate to the needs and feelings of others. Again, using data to learn. Actively listening. The ability to listen attentively to the concerns and needs of others. And more time to do this routine tasks are automated. You have more time to do that. The tasks are automated, of course. Emotional intelligence. The ability to manage one's own emotions and response to those emotions of others in a healthy and productive way. Again, allowing technology to understand others better. Clear communication. The ability to communicate effectively and clearly with others. Probably one of the most important critical points. Now, footnote to those results of balance is that those were actually generated by AI to help me create the points from the book. So that helped me to create a more appropriate way for you. So why is this important to you? Well, the key is that you can bring technology and the human element together. You need to build your own DQ. It's going to be expected of you in your generation that you're going to be tech savvy about using it. Well, don't let that be a myth. Let that be a fact. Understand it isn't how you operate the technology, it's how you interpret the technology, if you will. And keep in mind that service is still about people at the end of the day. So both the customer and the service provider are part of the people element of what you're doing and what your job is going to be. So in discussing that superpower, the discussion guide asks some questions. So let's address those and how it relates to us in the hospitality industry, if you will. First question, do you need to think in terms of me or we? I think here you need to think of the bigger picture about what technology is going to mean for others and how you can use it for others, not just how you're going to make your job simpler, if you will. Do you maintain appropriate balance with technology? Why or why not? Now, I am a technology person. I like technology. I can get carried away with maybe too much time on technology, and I need to keep my eyes open to the human element of what goes on with that input as well. How would you characterize your yin and yang balance today? Do you dominate or collaborate? Now, in your role as an intern, you're probably going to be not as likely to be in a dominant role, but you need to think about that in terms of how you collaborate or learn from others or get the input from others, even if you think you know how to do it. What happens to your emotions and your well-being when you disconnect from technology? Can you recall the last time you went completely offline for more than a day? I can't. Not sure about you, but I think there is an element here of maybe relying too much on it and thinking about what we might do differently with it to enhance the human aspect. Give us more time for the human aspect of things as a result of it. I keep emphasizing that because that's really the key here to what I think this particular superpower is about. Do you feel that you're able to show up fully human? Why or why not? Is there a difference between you offline and online experiences? Your offline and online experiences in this regard? So again, this is an awareness situation we're talking about here. Being all the more human means let's make sure that we think about the human elements in the things that we're relying on and how we're doing. So, for example, here, you may know how to do something quite well digitally, but the person that you're working with may not. So that might be something you need to help coach them through. So in summary, humanize how you apply technology. And as I've stated in a previous episode, go out and buy the book on the other superpowers and see what April has to say and see what your own interpretation is. Thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of my IOI podcast. If you heard something you liked, please share it with your fellow classmates. I'd also encourage you to forward it on to your faculty internship supervisor. Hey, you could even include your supervisor at your place of work. Enjoy your internship learning experience.